Hello everybody, I am the Jimmer, and this is my announcement video for the Propane 1 million RP King of the Hill Championship. This is going to be the next tournament I'm putting on here on the channel. It's going to run a little different than tournaments in the past. Instead of being a one-time event where you submit your designs and we eventually come through the bracket and get our first, second, third place, so on. In this tournament, it's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. We're going to try and have at least 1 or 2 episodes a week. And in those episodes, what we'll do is we'll have a user-submitted ships, and we'll have those face our 3 kings, and the 3 kings are going to be previous submissions that have defeated the King of the Hill Championship. And so we'll have a champion in a second place and a third place, and the contender will face the third place, second place, and then the champion. And if they are able to defeat all of them, they will become the new champion, and will go up against the submissions in coming videos. So my motivation for this is to do something a little different, and I think we've all kind of had that experience where we build something for a tournament, or we're just watching the tournament and have a favorite, and we're like, man, if they could have just done something a little different, had a little bit of a different altitude setting, or maybe like a little bit more smoke or shields or something like that, just a little small change that could totally have let them win the tournament. With this format, what we'll be able to do is to, you'll watch the video and see how your ship does, and then you'll be able to make changes and kind of, keep what works, and maybe, change the things that aren't working, and resubmit your craft and have a much better chance of winning. And, there's a pretty good incentive to win too, because if you become champion, then you're going to be in, you're going to see your ship, going up against the contenders in quite a few videos. You're going to be in every video until you are retired. And that's going to take at least 3 episodes to get bumped out, and more than likely it'll be several episodes before you're eventually bumped out of the championship. And I just kind of want to go over the rules real quick. This is, once again, going to be 1 million RP maximum. You can have a maximum of 3 sub-vehicles, so a total of 4 vehicles altogether. Make sure you put your all your vehicles into one blueprint. Use the sub-vehicle spawners so that everything is in one blueprint. It makes it a lot easier for me, and to make sure I spawn everything in the orientation you want. There's going to be a few part limitations. No repair tentacles. We want to avoid having heal blobs, and then we're going to say a maximum of 40 repair bots. That allows a fair amount of healing, but you're not going to be able. It'll allow you to recover like critical parts. You lose a mainframe or something like that, you could potentially come back, but it's not going to be enough to allow you to just tank damage and heal it non-stop. Balloons are going to be allowed, but we're going to say please no balloon armor. We're going to have no ammo processors. So if you want to use lots of cannons or lots of missiles, you're going to have to plan accordingly to have enough ammo barrels. And then we're also going to have a maximum of 4 fuel processors. This is to limit flyers a little bit. You'll still be able to make a fairly decent flyer using the huge jets, but if you want to use the custom jets, you're going to have to pay a pretty steep price for in terms of space and RP to get a decent speed out of that. But one of the designs I have for this actually uses custom jets, and it's still very fast, very close to 200 meters a second. So So you're still able to go pretty quick with a restriction, but it keeps things from getting too ridiculous. As far as AI goes, there's going to be no Lua, either for missiles or AI. I know some people really like Lua, but I think for this tournament we're gonna go no Lua. That could change in the future. If enough people decide they want to have Lua in. We'll maybe have a new season where or a separate bracket where we have Lua submissions in one bracket and non-Lua in another. We're gonna have a max altitude of 500 meters, so that's right at the edge of space. No spacecraft, just to kind of keep things balanced. We don't want spacecraft and submarines. Just neither of them really able to hit each other. So with a max altitude of 500, and then we're going to have a minimum altitude of 75. That should keep everything in range of everything else reasonably well. You're not going to have to go to great lengths to be able to hit other entries in the tournament. As far as exploits go, no jet stacking, no 0 RP blocks, no exploits, and you can ask for clarification on that. I don't consider regular game mechanics like the turkey leg engines or whatever. I mean, it's kind of cheap, but it's definitely not an exploit, and I would probably use it until it is fixed, because it's very strong. And if you're unsure of if what you're doing is cheaty, it probably is, and maybe you could scale it back a little bit, or just ask for clarification. You can send me a PM if you don't want to give away what you're doing. And then so all of the matches will be run in the vehicle designer, so there will be auto scrapping and unlimited resources. We're going to try and limit the resources with the no ammo processors and no fuel processors and the limited 40 repair bots. But other than that, we're in the just the regular vehicle designer, so there are unlimited resources. You don't have to worry about metal or anything like that. It's going to be on Neater, and it's going to be out in the ocean here. I can show you exactly where all the battles are going to take place if you want to do some testing. It's going to be, this is Neater, and then this is the starting spawn, and then it's going to be up here, kind of in the middle of this ocean here, is where I'm going to start all the battles in this square. And this is going to be, everybody's going to spawn at a kilometer apart, 1,000 meters. And you can let me know your preferred orientation, if you'd like to be facing or away or broadside. We're going to start everything at sea level. Ships and subs will be started right in the water, and then aircraft I'll start them a little bit above, maybe 50 meters, so about here, just so they have a chance to fly away without dipping in the water. Because that can be pretty unfair if your aircraft starts in the water. Sometimes it takes a long time for them to break free and start flying. And then the winner of the match will be decided by the health remaining after 30 minutes. So I'm just going to go right off of the C menu here, and once we get down to about the 30-minute mark, I don't think most battles will last that long, but we'll kind of look at all the vehicles and what their health's at that time. And then we'll also go to overtime. Like in this case, both these vehicles are very close. I don't think 93 to 91% is really different enough to really call the match. So at that point, I would probably go into an overtime. And then if the overtime is still going too long and neither vessel is really able to damage the other, then we'll give the victory to the king. And I mean, it's just kind of a precedent that you have to beat the champion to become the champion. You can't just tie with them. But if that situation happens and you're very close, like you'll be able to make a couple small changes, and you know you're gonna beat them the next time you fight them. And also, just to note that fleeing from battle for more than 2 minutes will be counted as a loss. So you don't want to make your ship too defensive. I mean, you want armor and that sort of thing, but you don't want to be to the point where you're just running away and unable to attack. So if you're moving away from the fight and you're too far away to attack, and that goes on for 2 minutes, it will be counted as a loss. Just I mean, it's just to try and keep the battles interesting. Nobody wants to really watch, a race. People want to see a fight, and that includes myself. So I'll just kind of go over the tournament format again. So each episode will feature one contender. The contender will be from the top of the list. The list will be ordered in the order they're received. So the sooner you get your submission in, the sooner you'll see it in battle. The contender will face all 3 kings, and if they win, they become the new king. And the champion becomes second place becomes third place, and then the third place will be retired. And I'll probably put something in like the original post, with the retired kings, and maybe a link to some pictures if those are available, and maybe some like stats, like how many battles they won and how many they lost, and like how long they were a king. Just kind of like a bragging rights type thing. I think that would be fun. And all the battles are going to be best of 3. So you got to win 2 battles to move on. And then you can go ahead and modify your designs, like redesign and resubmit as much as you want. Just know that like every time I get a new like submission, it's gonna go at the bottom of the list, just to keep things fair. So you can't get on the list and then at the last minute send me a different ship or anything like that. It'll go on the bottom of the list. I don't anticipate the list getting too long, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. And the kings cannot be modified. Once you become king, you can start work on a new design, or even redesigning your king and submit that. But you can't modify the king once they're in play. Just so that we have. I don't want the situation where we have one person that's just like kind of staying a little bit ahead of the crowd and remaining the champion for a really long time. I think that would let things get stale. So if you are the king, you can keep working on your craft or submit something else, but the king will stay the same until they are eventually defeated. And then just to kind of go back to the idea of seasons, I'm going to restart the tournament periodically as new ships come, or new updates come in, and things change. We have the engine updates, and then also a potential like nuclear engines coming in, and the big resource update coming in. And every time we have a new update like that, we'll go ahead and restart the season. We'll move all the current kings like over to the Hall of Fame. Maybe a little note about how they were undefeated, never dethroned, something like that. And then we'll give everybody a week or so to redesign and resubmit their ships if they have to. And we'll start out a new tournament. Maybe do just like a initial like tournament style, like everybody in the list face each other to determine the next the initial 3 kings or something like that. I think that could work. But just so you know that the rules may change periodically, but it's going to be long shifts between the rule changes, and you'll have a pretty good idea when it's coming. Just so you don't feel like you're working on a craft and then you get it all done and the rules are going to change and it's not going to work. So we'll try and keep everything pretty static so that you can design around those rules and not have to worry about your design getting messed up. All right. I hope everybody who's watching this participates. It's a lot of fun to see your ship battle on the YouTube. I've watched tournaments for a long time before I ever started playing them, and actually it did pretty good. Like I consider myself kind of a from the depths noob, and I just watched some videos and like thought I like that design, but they should do this different or something like that. And I was able to do fairly well even for a noob in some of the recent tournaments. And so if you're watching this and thinking about it, go ahead and do it. You really don't have anything to lose. Even if you aren't able to become champion, you'll at least get to see your ship do some battle, and show off some cool designs that you have or something like that. And I'm gonna just send your submission to my email, or you can send me a private message either on the forums or through YouTube. I'd like to have a lot of new faces. That'd be interesting to see kind of the cool stuff that people come up with. All right, I hope you guys are getting excited for this tournament. I certainly am. That kind of concludes all the rules and all that sort of stuff. And then I'm going to just kind of quickly go over the initial kings. So the first 3 kings, just to get things started, are going to be based on previous tournament submissions that I have sent in, all except one of them. And you should, I mean, if you follow the tournaments, you probably have seen them, but I'll also, just go over them real quick right here, so you kind of have an idea if you're working on design, what you're going to be up against and what to plan for. So this first ship right here is the Wet Venus. It's one of my campaign ships that I just did some updates to get it under the resource limit, and a little bit more focus on PvP instead of as a campaign ship. You can see it's got the heat seeker missiles coming out of the top, and then it also has anti-missile missiles, and then this is a anti-air advanced custom cannon. You can see it's struggling here. It isn't able to shoot at the sub it's fighting, but it works fairly well against air vehicles. High rate of failure, small diameter shell, and then it also has torpedoes that shoot out the front. It's just getting torn apart here. So just a kind of a fairly all-around standard design. It's not, it's good. Like, you're gonna have a tough time beating it, but it's not indestructible. And it's fairly slow. I think the top speed is something like 30 meters a second or something like that. And then at this point, it's going against my other submission. This is going to be, so that was the third place king here is the Wet Venus, and then the second place king is going to be the Sneaky Venus. This is actually a modified version of the very first Sneaky Venus. I actually added a little bit to it just to bring it up to the pretty close to the RP limit. This is a purely missile and torpedo submarine. Lots of torpedoes. The torpedoes aren't particularly fast. I believe they go something like 25 or maybe 30 meters a second. So they're not all that fast. If you have a fast-moving vehicle or an air vehicle, this design isn't really that difficult. Slow-moving ships, it does fairly well against. And then it also has vertical launch missiles, which I don't think are firing because the Wet Venus over there is sinking, so it registers as underwater, so it won't fire its missiles. But we'll go ahead and load in what's going to be the current champion. Right now, it's going to be the Speedy Venus from Dunkerton's recent tournament, and it's actually 2 of them which have been slightly nerfed down, so that they were under. Together, they're under the 1,000,000 RP limit. So, And this is exactly how I'm gonna spawn or start all the battles. Just in case you're curious as to how they're gonna be started. As you can see, that same location, and then need the interface for this, and we'll load in the Sneaky Venus first. And yeah, just don't worry about that one. I think this one's going to be my eventual, once we get some players in the bracket, I might send this in and see how well it does. But it's just a prototype at this point. And then you can kind of see, I'll go through just so you can see the RP limits on all of them. And we'll do the Sneaky Venus, and we'll let it get wrecked by the Speedy Venus here. Go a kilometer apart. Oops, actually I'm going the wrong way. So yeah, right about a kilometer there. And then just above the water, not too high up, but enough so they don't get waterlogged, we'll load in the Speedy Venus. This is a, it ends up being 2 ships, or 2 thruster craft to be specific. Alright, and we'll get a look at them here before we speed things up. Get the interface off. Alright, so we have back-to-back Speedy Weenies. But these ships have dual turrets that are identical to each other, and they both are mainly laser turrets. And then they also have missiles. The missiles on the top and bottom are slightly different. The ones on top have more fuel tanks and higher thrust, and then the ones on the bottom have fewer fuel tanks, but they also feature torpedo propellers, so they're able to dive down and hit subs. And then that's the only weapons are on the turrets, and then there is a fairly large, I don't know if it's a little hard to see with it moving, but it's got a fairly large custom jet engine that runs the length of the vehicle, and that's going to be our champion. Let's speed things up and watch it take out the Sneaky Venus down there in the water. I've run this battle a couple times just to I wanted to make sure that I had these ships in the right order. So the Speedy Venus is definitely the best design, followed by the Sneaky Venus, and then the Wet Venus is the weakest, but it's still, I mean, it's still fairly strong. And depending on, you know, you get like the rock paper scissors matchups where you know, different vehicle classes are better against you know, certain enemies than others. See these firing and deploying smoke, and then let's get a peek down and see if these torpedoes are able to land on the Sneaky Venus. It's definitely somewhere over here. Might have to cheat and turn. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this hasn't been painted. I just got done kind of going through and restructuring all these so that they fit the tournament requirements. And the torpedoes are missing now, but eventually those lasers will start picking off the propellers, and then the torpedoes are able to connect, and the Speedy Venus will eventually win. Both are at 100% right now. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I've gone on long enough. You guys should have a pretty good idea of how the tournament's going to run, what the rules are, and what you'll be facing, at least until we have some submissions taking over and becoming the new champions. I'm really looking forward to this tournament. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what kind of designs you guys are able to come up with, and hopefully we'll have some pretty good battles. Alright, so good luck with your designs, and hopefully we'll get this thing kicked off here soon.